You're listening to the Grind Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. I'm your host, Greg. You're listening to episode 338. I am here tonight with Tyler. And Tyler, thank you for joining tonight. Ryan is sick. Ryan has an excuse, but you are all now moved into your new place. How are you?
I am now moved. Moving is a stressful thing. Glad to be out of where I was at. Not that it was a bad situation. It was just time to move on and
you have good internet now.
Move into bigger and better things, and that's kind of where we're at this point in time. Shouldn't have any issues going forward recording. Obviously, things are fluid. Things do happen in life, but I don't see anything other than I am not going to opening night. I don't know if I've told anybody that. I am not going.
No, we already ragged on you when you weren't on the podcast about it.
I will be going to the week after. That just logistically didn't work out. I have friends that also want to go to Michigan football games, so they want to do both. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll do this year and I'll do that to get this out of the way. And then I'll go back to doing the opener every year going forward. So it's unfortunate. I'm going to miss all you guys. But I will be at the Tampa Bay game a couple Fridays from then. And then I will be at the Michigan-Washington game on the 17th. Or 18th, I believe it is. So that is the story with me. I am back. We're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go, but are the Red Wings good to go? So we are still in the depths of summer where there is literally nothing going on, no information, nothing happening. There are a few rumors out there. We're going to kind of latch onto one of those tonight. We're also going to talk about an interview that Pavel Datsyuk had recently. There's a lot of really good points that I was able to pick out of it and some interesting stuff and predictions that he made. But first, I want to talk about a rumor that is floating around that the Edmonton Oilers are interested in goaltender Sebastian Cossa. So during an appearance on the Nation Network's Sakaris and Price show, Cam Robinson had said that the Oilers were calling about two players, Trey Augustine and Sebastian Cossa, quoted saying they're looking a little more long-term, said Robinson, of the Oilers' mindset to address their goaltending. They've got their field division a little bit wider here. I was told they contacted Detroit. I believe the first person they asked about was Trey Augustine, and I think that was a non-starter. Steve Yzerman and company really, really love that kid, as they should. So then you look at Cossa. I also agree. Don't trade Trey Augustine. Trey Augustine is like a 45-year-old trapped in a 19-year-old's body. He is very mature for his age. He's very poised in net. One of the best goalies in college hockey right now. And he looks to be just a really, really high-level goalie prospect. And that's what happens when you've got two very high-level goalie prospects, is that you then start to say, hey, maybe I can move one. Maybe one is expendable. If I really believe in both of these guys, I can move one and bring something in that helps the team. So I guess just your overall thoughts initially on Kossa's name appearing in the trade rumors.
So originally when I saw it, I hated it. I don't think that just because you have two goalies that could potentially be can't miss prospects and could be good goaltenders in the future doesn't mean that you have two can't miss prospects. We do think that Trey Augustine is going to be the guy at some point. But I think the other thing, and a lot of people aren't talking about this. What if Trey Augustine, for some reason, doesn't want to sign with you after his 4 years at Michigan State? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying Kossa's already in your organization. Trey Augustine technically isn't in your organization yet because nothing has been signed yet. So I would say you got to keep both of them. Now, if somebody wants to knock your socks off and get really stupid about a Sebastian Cossa trade, you at least entertain it. And if there's a situation where you can get better at the goaltending position and also get better at your own position, let me back up on that. If you think you can subtract from your goaltending depth and your prospect depth by getting rid of a Sebastian Cossa, who is getting ready to graduate from that prospect status here pretty soon, to help the rest of your team make the playoffs and perennially, contend for the playoffs and eventually contend for the Stanley Cup, then you have to do it. But the thing is, there is a risk there, because what if Trey Augustine doesn't sign, or what if Trey Augustine comes in and he's a very good college goaltender and that's it, and you don't get what you thought you were going to get from Trey Augustine, and Sebastian Cossa goes to Edmonton and helps them win a Stanley Cup? It's not going to be the best feeling in Hockey Town, and the alarm bells are going to start, ringing on Steve Yzerman even more than they already have been.
But at what point does the risk outweigh the benefit? So
there
right
definitely
now,
can be a benefit.
Sure, you're trying to make the playoffs now. And can trading someone like Sebastian Cossa help you do that, knowing you do have two, and there's a bunch of people that are hired that know far more about analytics and projecting players than we do, and that's why they hire those people and pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, that look at both of these goalies, and then Steve confers with them and says, hey, do you think we've got a guy in both of these guys? And they say yes. He goes, okay, well, I think I can trade away one. And looking at Augustine, I think it's a good bet that they will both be good NHL goaltenders in the long run. Is Cossa more ready now? Yeah, he's played pro hockey. He's played in Grand Rapids. I'm not on the I don't think Augustine is going to sign train, because I think that this is probably going to be his last year at Michigan State. If you're thinking that Cossa is going to move to Detroit in a backup role, I think he stayed at State because Kossa's clearly got that lockdown role in AHL, and there'd be no point for Trey to really leave college to play backup in Grand Rapids or to go to Toledo and play. I just think that college has become such a good program now. The NCAA has become such a good program that you're putting it up there, maybe just a step below the AHL, as to where I'm not going to send him to somewhere like Toledo to do his development right now. Now, Cossa did play a year in Toledo because he wasn't ready. So I think that if you look at the pros and cons, are you maybe saying, like, instead of having two drops or two chances at hitting on a high-end goaltender, two drops in the bucket, now you've only got one, which I understand the worry there. But at what point do you say trading this guy can help us get into the playoffs tomorrow?
If that is the case, and you can get somebody that helps you make the playoffs, this season, and Trey Augustine turns into let's not even call him a superstar, let's call him an all-star caliber goaltender, then that's a win, because you made the playoffs. You made that short-term goal, which was to make the playoffs for the first time in, what's it going to be, 9 years now, if they miss this year? Or is it going to be 10?
No, I believe this will be year 9.
Okay. So regardless, the last time that they were in the playoffs was that 5-game series against Tampa Bay. Augustine would go back to Michigan State for his junior year this year. Now, my concern is, what if he wants to go back for his senior year? Like, say, the reason he said he wanted to go back to Michigan State this year was because Michigan State was highly ranked this year in the Big Ten, highly ranked in the pairwise in the NCAA rankings, and they failed to get it done. They were eliminated in the regionals. What if that same thing happens at Michigan State and they swing big and for some reason they miss again, and he wants to really win a national championship? That's his sole goal. What if he goes back again and then how much longer are you going to do this with Trey Augustine, I guess, is my point. It's like, do you want to become pro, or do you want to win a national championship, or is it a combination of the two? I guess would be my question to Trey Augustine.
Well, the Red Wings, and a lot of the player interviews that have come out recently say the Wings are all about letting the players take the path they want to take early on. They're not pressuring them to sign. They're not saying, we really, really want you to sign, like this is your best option. They're saying, we have a spot for you if you want it. We would like you to do it, but do what is comfortable with you, which is the way you should do it. I mean, these are kids, and for a lot of them, it's not just, do I want to play and make it big with the team and win a national championship? It's, do I want to continue my education? Do I want to get a degree? Do I want to have something I can do after hockey? Which was the big concern for many, many years, was after hockey, then what? And now these guys are going through the programs and they're getting their degrees and they're able to go into business, or they're able to go into sports management or whatever they want to do after the fact. So this makes it easier. This third year is a year removing him from a degree, which at that point, what he could do is he could sign, play for Grand Rapids on his off time, take his college classes, and then have that wrapped up really quick and not have to worry about it. Because there are guys that go through that while they're playing in the minors, where they're trying to get a 4-year degree when they went to the AHL, and it really takes your mind off the game when you have to focus on other stuff like school.
Was it Dan Larkin that was doing that during COVID?
Maybe.
Someone on the Red Wings was doing it, I believe, at Michigan during COVID.
It's just that it becomes just another distraction. So by letting him stay there, letting him work on that program, be like I said, one of the best players last season, and 30 games played, he had a 208 goals against and a 924 save percentage. Was like one of the best goalies in college hockey. Well, being able to earn his degree there, I think, is a smart move for him. You're also close to him. It's not like he's overplaying in Sweden. He's literally in East Lansing. You could drive and go talk to him if you wanted to. I just think that it's a really good situation there. The other half of it is, what do you ask of the Oilers? And I think that's where the sticking part is, because if you're trying to get an impact player that'll make you a playoff team tomorrow, and really you're looking at a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman, they really don't have that to give up. I mean, they have Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman is 32 years old and he's coming off a decently major injury. On defense, there's nothing that really sticks out to me because they're not going to give up an Evan Bouchard. Matthias Ekholm is a good player, but he's 35 years old. I'm not taking back Jake Wallman. It's either you look and go at a high-level prospect like a Matthew Savoy, which I don't think they're going to want to give up because they acquired him from Buffalo. And you would need a high pick, like a first-round pick. But that doesn't make you better tomorrow. That doesn't say, yes, this is the guy that I'm putting in to make that playoff push, and he's going to get us there.
Well, not to mention, the Oilers don't exactly have a whole lot in the cupboard stock. Savoy is the guy, and after that, I don't know that they have a whole lot in the cupboard. You know, watching World Juniors, and I can think maybe there's one or two other guys that are pretty good, but they don't have like a Wings pipeline or a Anaheim Ducks pipeline or Carolina. It's not like that. So this is like I feel like the worst kind of team to trade with. I mean, if they're interested though, you have to entertain it at least, and you know, do your due diligence on it. The other thing I just wanted to say about Cossa real quick, or sorry, about Augustine real quick, is I remember, I don't know if it was after the trade deadline or after the end of season meetings or whatever, Steve Yzerman spoke and he was asked about that. I think it was Helen St. James that asked him the question, do you plan on signing Sebastian Cossa sooner rather than later? And he basically said, we're not worried about it. We plan on signing him when he's ready to come up. We're not going to push him to stay there. We're not going to push him to sign the contract, but we're confident that we'll be able to sign the contract. He seemed very confident about it. He seemed pretty nonchalant about it. I don't know if that's just Steve Yzerman playing coy or if he's being honest. But
wait, are you talking about Augustine?
Yeah, Augustine, yeah. Yzerman didn't seem too worried about getting him signed one way or another. So hopefully the relationship there, he is a Michigan kid, so I feel like a lot of people that grow up in the state of Michigan dream of playing for the Red Wings one day. Although, you know, business and agents and stuff like that can get in the way. But, I mean, I would imagine at some point he'll be donning the Red Wing uniform.
Looking at Edmonton's pool, Matt Savoy is their top-ranked prospect, followed by a guy they literally just signed from Tampa, which is Isaac Howard. Isaac Howard is their second-ranked prospect.
That's what I was thinking of, too, Isaac Howard. Yep.
Yeah, their third-ranked is Bo Akey, who was drafted with number 56 in 2023, and he got injured 14 games into the season. They don't project his NHL arrival until 2027-28. So there's really nothing there. I understand what Edmonton is trying to do, but Yzerman is looking for impactful moves now, and he doesn't have to trade Cossa. There's no reason to trade Cossa. They're not down on him or anything. It's just that the Oilers are calling. Steve has guys that are there, but I don't see a trade fit.
The Oilers also don't even really make sense for a fit perspective. I mean, like, yeah, they do have a goaltending need, but first of all, who's to say that Cossa is going to be better than Stuart Skinner?
Right. Yeah, like Cossa is not ready right now to step into the league and be a starter. Now, if they're looking at like you said, looking at a long-term solution, sure, but he's not
Right.
going to get them there this season.
That you're almost better off trading him to somebody. Now, obviously, the Wings and the Hawks aren't going to make a deal, and I know the Hawks already made the deal for Spencer Knight at the trade deadline this past year. That's the kind of situation you're almost would rather trade Cossa to, a situation where you're kind of in the same situation as yours, but maybe a little bit further back, like I don't even know if Buffalo is a good example. I can't think of a particular good example, but like a team that is not quite where you're at, but trying to get to where you're at. And you probably don't want to help any of the teams in your division, like Buffalo. Montreal's ahead of you right now. But teams like that, Ottawa. But in the Western Conference, you think of, Utah maybe, although they do have.
Who's Utah got? Vejmelka?
Yeah, Karl Vejmelka, yeah. So, I mean, it would have to be a situation like that, but I feel like you wouldn't want to trade him in division or even in the East. Like, I feel like if you're going to do that, you trade him out West and just whatever happens with it happens. But I feel like it's got to be the right situation, and I don't think Edmonton's that situation at all.
Yeah, I would say you're not.
It almost doesn't make sense.
You're not trading him unless someone comes out and like offers you way more than what you're asking for to get him. I just don't see it happening.
Exactly.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Pavel Datsyuk interview. Just give us 1 minute, word from our sponsors, and we will return. During our quick break, I just want to tell everyone about something that's totally changed my mornings, Strong Coffee Company. If you're like me, you love your coffee, but you also want it to actually do something for you. This is the upgrade you've been looking for. Strong Coffee isn't your average cup of joe. It's an all-in-one instant blend made for people who care about their health and performance. You're getting 15 grams of grass-fed protein, 5 grams of MCTs for long-lasting energy, and adaptogens like ashwagandha and L-theanine to help you stay calm, focused, and productive without the jitters or crash. The black blend is bold and smooth, made from organic fair trade Arabica beans, and their lattes, they've got collagen, hyaluronic acid, healthy fats, the works. It tastes amazing and helps you feel sharper, sleep better, and just show up as your best self every day. And on top of all that, they're eco-friendly too, so you can feel good about what you're putting in your body and how it's made. Check them out at strongcoffeecompany.com and use our code GRINDLINE. That's strongcoffeecompany.com, promo code GRINDLINE at checkout for 20% off. That's GRINDLINE for 20% off your order. Give it a shot. I think you're going to love it. And we're back. And there was an interview recently with none other than Pavel Datsyuk where he was asked a lot of questions and gave a lot of really interesting answers. And I picked out a few quotes, and we are going to start with they asked him about the rebuild, and they said, hey, like, what's going on with the rebuild? Like, what's your take on it? Why do you think it's going so long? Like, do you think that they're in the right spot? And he's quoted saying the Red Wings were at the top for a long time, winning many titles, so it's understandable that their rebuild is taking more time than usual. They say a rebuild takes about 7 years, but since Detroit was so high up, the road back to the top takes even longer. Now, Detroit has a great arena, which is already a big plus. Perhaps what the team lacks is standout leaders. But that's true for not only Detroit, it applies to hockey in general. Players are maturing more slowly these days, and some never mature at all, staying teenagers forever. And immediately, people online latched onto the whole, he's talking about Dylan Larkin. See, I told you, Dylan Larkin sucks and he shouldn't be the captain. And that's not it at all. Because he was asked about Larkin, and then he says, it's hard to give advice to Larkin when I haven't seen him in 10 years. I played with him when he was still very young. A lot of time has passed. He stands out now, already an experienced and mature player. He understands everything. As a team, they probably just lack confidence. And this is something we had talked about. We had talked about under Newsy, where they would get in these losing ruts and it would get it to them mentally, and there was not really anything they did about it, and they would just flounder and be bad. And that's kind of what he's alluding to, is just they need to get out of their heads. They need to get that confidence back. And that is something I think Todd will help with. And his point on the rebuild also is something that we've been saying for a long time. When you were good for so long, you did not have a prospect pool when you came out of the Ken Holland era. You did not have any picks. You traded all your picks away for middling players and for just hope to get back in the playoffs. Yzerman had to build it from the ground up. He had to rebuild your prospect pool into one of the best pools in the league, and we're starting to see the fruits of that now with guys like Casper come in. Datsyuk understands it. And a lot of people understand it. People that look at the system, look where we were at. Even if you go look at the roster from 2019-20 to where it is now, and the prospect pool from then to now, you understand what's going on. And his point is valid. It takes a little longer when you were so good for so long and depleted your entire system.
You also didn't get lucky with the lottery.
Never. You got unlucky with the lottery all the time.
Yeah. Who was the highest pick? Lucas Raymond, right at 5?
Lucas Raymond, 4.
I forget exactly what the stat was, but I was looking at this a couple years ago, and it might not be true at this point. I feel like it still is, though. I feel like every team that's won the Stanley Cup since 2006 and maybe even farther back has had one lottery player on their team.
We had looked at this a while back, and it was as far back as I had tracked. It was at least the previous 10 or further Stanley Cup winners. They had one or more lottery picks on their team. So the fact that the Red Wings are doing what they're doing without those picks, I just think that if you take a bit, and I hate continuing to harp on it, it's a big picture kind of thing. You have to look at the entire picture, where we came from to where we are now. Now, is it possible it could have happened a little faster? Sure. Is it possible that if the Red Wings would have hit on a lottery pick, we might be in now? Yeah. Or that we make we don't make a couple other trades, like trading for, or not trades, but free agent signings like Cop and Comfer, and we flounder for another couple years and purposely are bad and try to get another pick, maybe. But from the time that Yzerman came in, he was trying to instill a new, a culture shift in the locker room of getting back to at least being competitive. Maybe not being great and not winning all the time, but being competitive and competing every night. And now we're at the point where, sure, I think that you can look at it and say, yeah, we're at the point now where we should be in the playoffs. We should be getting in. Now, did we do much this free agency? No, because there wasn't much to do. So there's still time to do it. But Pavel Datsyuk also says that looking ahead to 2026, he offers a bold forecast. Here's my prediction. Detroit will reach the conference final. As for Florida, which has only won 2 Stanley Cups, it will be hard to win a third in a row. I think it will be very difficult for them, partly because of the short summer and also because motivation won't quite be the same. So he predicts that the Red Wings will make the conference final in 2026, which I think is a reach, but I'll settle for just playoffs.
You know what I love? One of the college football podcasts I listen to, they do bold predictions. And instead of saying that will never happen kind of thing, and while I agree with you, that would be a very long shot for that to happen. And I'm glad Pavel Datsyuk will say something like that. However, the things that would take for that to happen, and they would be nuclear things, like what would happen to the Toronto Maple Leafs? What would happen to, the teams in the East that are very
even
good?
Tampa.
The Tampas, the Montreal, who's upcoming right now, Washington. Like there are some pretty damn good teams in the East, and what would have to happen would be something like Florida gets eliminated in the first round, and you get to a situation where you get Carolina, or you get one of those teams that still hasn't quite gotten over the hump, and you're able to be opportunistic in a bad Eastern Conference, and you get to the finals just because everybody else sucks. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Six team planes would have to crash, and everyone would have to go on LTIR. Like that is what would, like the plague would have to go through a few locker rooms, and they'd have to all be playing backups. I don't see a conference final berth, but I mean, is there at least a path in one way or another to a wild card? I can't say where we're at right now and what we did and what everyone else did. I can't say no. I can't say there is zero path to a wild card. Like it's possible they could, you get Edmondson to step up more, take a bigger role on the team. You get another year of Marco Kasper where he takes off. You get a full year of Todd McClellan. You really shore up your bottom six with guys like JVR and Mason Appleton. You get a better goaltender in net. What you really didn't fix is your top 4 defensive issues. So it still puts Ben Sherrod on the top pair, and that still puts Simon Edvinsson on the second pair, probably with Albert Johansson. But with a better goalie in net, does that give you a better chance every night to win? Yes. And the Red Wings were blown out less than they were the season before. There were a lot more closer games that I think could have been won with more consistent, solid goaltending. And you improved. So there's a path to it, but they're not at the spot right now where they're going to be in a conference final.
I think your expectations going into the season should be make the playoffs and go from there. See what happens. Everything else after making the playoffs is gravy, I think, personally. This season, you're playing with house money at that point. I would just say that if you make the playoffs, that's what your goal before the season was, and that's what it should be, going forward until you do that. And once you do that, then you can start adjusting the expectations. Like, okay, we made the playoffs. Now what we want to do is we want to win around. And then from there, okay, now you become a situation where you're 1 round away from a conference final and 2 rounds away from winning the Stanley Cup. That's when you start saying, okay, the Red Wings are not just a playoff team. They're a Stanley Cup contender. They're Tampa, they're Florida, they're Carolina, they're the Rangers from a couple years ago. Like, they're in that category, but they're not there yet. And yeah, I guess you can luck your way into a conference final appearance. See the Philadelphia Flyers in 2010. They came back and beat Boston, but they got the horseshoe up their ass once they erased that 3-0 deficit and were able to work their way all the way to the Stanley Cup final and finally lost to a way better team in the Chicago Blackhawks. That's a weird example because they made the playoffs on the last day of the season. They were, I forget who it was, but it was a Rangers-Flyers shootout, and the winner of that shootout in that game went to the playoffs, and the loser had summer early. So, I mean, it can happen. There's just a lot of things that would have to happen for that to happen.
And to his leadership point, in that he's not pointing at Dylan Larkin, but he's pointing at, I remember people saying David Perron was the vocal guy in the locker room when he came in. And I almost want to say, like, maybe someone like JVR, who's kind of that Spitfire personality, could come in and do maybe the same thing. Maybe you get a guy like that comes in. Maybe someone like Gibbs. I know a lot of times goalies are not the most vocal, but maybe
some guys are, though.
Maybe someone like John Gibson comes in and says, hey, pull your heads out of your ass and let's just go win a game. Like, I will stop the pucks. You need to go put them in. So they changed it up a little bit, and maybe there's a guy in there that develops into kind of like that vocal leader, because it's been said Dylan Larkin's not really the vocal guy. He leads by example. He shows what it is to be a good hockey player. But there's other guys that will come in and will peel paint. Patrick Kane's not that guy. DeBrinket's not going to be that guy. Lucas Raymond maybe eventually can be a guy like that. But I think bringing a guy like JVR seems like a strong personality that could maybe do that Perron style rah, let's go kick some ass kind of role.
Well, the other thing too is you now have a full year of Todd McClellan and his coaching staff, Trent Yanni and those guys. Like, they were put into a tough situation when they took over. Make no mistake, that was a tough situation that they were shoved into. That game that they coached was against Toronto on a Friday night when he had just gotten hired. Less than a day later, and he and Trent Yanni walk into the locker room and they're like, all right, guys, let's go do something here.
Yeah, like, hi, I'm Todd, that's Trent, let's go try and win a game.
Let's go win a fucking hockey game here. But, like, I feel like they made progress. Yeah, they didn't reach the points that they had the year before, and they weren't 1 point away from making the playoffs like they were the year before, but they were still in the hunt. They were still, relevant in the beginning of April. It was a long shot, but it was still relatively there.
We had hope.
But here's the thing. The hope now needs to lead to success, because if not, things are going to start being said that we probably didn't foresee ever being said about Steve Yzerman. So,
yeah, I think that's going to do it tonight. That was an interesting interview by Pavel Datsyuk, and especially when there's nothing to talk about, to get something like that to kind of just jog a little bit of conversation is always good. But tell me, get your final thoughts before we sign off.
Just really quickly.
Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, I may never.
This is your final thoughts. Your what?
If the Wings make the playoffs, you may never see me at an opening night ever again.
Why?
And you
Because
guys
it's gonna be too expensive?
use the opening night curse against me. I promise.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
So there's that. That's my final thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91 or X if that's what you call it.
Yeah, my final thoughts are going to be, I hope that the Tigers don't blow this whole season by being not great down the stretch. But I need to start winning some more games. But I am excited for hockey to come back. I'm going to wait a little bit before I get my opening night tickets, but I should be there. They're kind of expensive right now. I believe the 114 or 115 is where we normally sit, and they're around $215 a ticket, which is pretty crazy for a team that didn't do much.
Goes a long way, doesn't it?
It didn't do much over the summer, so we'll see how that goes. But you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. To thank the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading us around. Vintage Detroit Collection, which is the only place you get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on, and where we have an exclusive t-shirt deal. If you go there, click the Keep It Local tab, click the Grindline Podcast, you'll find all our designs there. And sales help us keep the lights on. You can also follow us on YouTube at Grindline Pod. Sub to us, turn on those notifications. You'll be notified whenever an episode goes live. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.